This is Getting Stoned. It's a podcast about gems and minerals, and I am not your host.
This is Getting Stoned, a podcast about all things gems and minerals, and I am your host, Jonna Kreider. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. Thank you, Elon Musk, for joining me. All right, so Elon, I always find it inspiring when you talk about the light of consciousness. So what does the light of consciousness mean to you?
To the best of our knowledge, the only sort of conscious life that we're aware of is on Earth. Conscious in the sense of at least thinking that it has self-awareness. Like I think of myself. I think therefore I am, or whatever. Descartes. So we've not even found microbial life in the rest of the solar system. Now it's possible that we may find microbial life or something, maybe even sea life under the ice of Europa. That's an interesting open question mark. But at least thus far, we've seen no signs of life whatsoever, not even microbial, outside of Earth. And according to geological record, as best science can determine, Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old. But this suggests that it's odd that there's not, if the universe is this old, if the solar system is this old, it's odd that only now, very recently, has life evolved that can talk and write and communicate ideas in a sophisticated way, and only now has civilization gotten to the point where it is possible to send life to another planet, or obviously we sent people to the moon, although it's been a while since we last did that. A lot of people think moon landings are fake. They're not fake. I just want to be clear.
I don't think they're fake.
They say, yeah, there's a remarkable number of people who do. And I'm like, oh man, they're not fake. Please.
They've actually brought back some cool minerals from the moon, and I kind of have one in my collection.
Yeah, I actually have a slice of a moon, a meteor, a chunk of moon that was where a meteor hit the moon, smashed a bunch of moon rocks, and some of the moon rocks landed on Earth, and I've got a segment of one of them.
Yeah, the Apollo mission brought back some tranquility-ite, and up until 2011, it's called that because of the Sea of Tranquility.
Yeah.
And there was none found on Earth. And then in 2011, some deposits were found in Australia. So I have a friend of mine sent me some deposits, and it broke.
Oh, yeah.
And so it had a big chunk and two little pieces. So I made the other two little pieces into art. So.
Well, but it's crazy how old the rock is,
Yeah, it's like billions. And that shungite I just gave you, that's over 2 billion years old. There's
a long time.
There's no source. They don't know where it came from.
That's. It's hard to even you can't wrap your mind around, that kind of time scale.
Yeah.
A billion years. Our lifespans are a flash in the pan.
It's true.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, shorter than a flash in the pan compared to the galactic time scales. So I don't know. There's much things that one could therefore say, or at least appear to be likely, which is that it appears that consciousness is rare, and it takes a long time for it to arise, and so we're, like I said, to the best of our knowledge, we're alone, and so we have to accept the possibility that we may be it, at least in this sector of the galaxy or in the Milky Way paths. And if we're it, and this is the only little candle in a vast darkness of the only little light of consciousness that got us lit, then we should really try to make sure that light does not go out, and we can't take it for granted that it won't. So we want to try to make it last as long as possible, and I think we also want to try to understand the nature of the universe, meaning of life, where is it going? What does the future hold? Just find out what's going on in the universe,
Yeah.
And so that means like the more that we can expand the scope and scale of consciousness, the more we're likely to understand the fundamental questions around the meaning of life and nature of the universe. And so I think that's a good goal to have. And it's a goal that I think can unite humanity, because it's a common goal, as opposed to sort of infighting and, I want this people say, I want this piece of land. No, I want this piece of land. I'm like, there's a lot of land out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of planets with nothing, How about those ones? Why fight over the little pieces when there's entire planets out there, and solar systems and stuff? So, so I think it is a sort of, I think it is a philosophy that withstands reason, meaning like I think there's a solid reasoning basis for it. It's really just a philosophy of curiosity, I would call it. So that, and it's also exciting, if you think like, there have to be reasons when you wake up in the morning that you're excited to be alive and you look forward to the future. And it can't just be solving one sad problem after another. That's what the hell point. There's no point in life like that.
I agree. I agree with you on that. Yeah. I have a question about that later on down the road, about your stance on that. But
there's always problems, But we gotta have some, things that were inspired, that are inspiring and exciting as too.
Yes.
I'm not saying we shouldn't solve problems. We should, but we also need positive things.
Yeah.
And I think people just get sad if it's just one problem after another. And
it is.
And the way the media works is, honestly, like you read the newspaper, most of the time the newspaper is trying to answer the question, what is the worst thing that happened on Earth today?
It is like that. It's like,
and it's a big planet, so something really bad is happening somewhere on Earth because there's 8 billion people. So you've got to it's like, obviously something bad's going to be happening on every given day. You've got 8 billion opportunities for that. And so that's just, and the way we've actually evolved, I think, is to respond more to negative news than to positive news, in the sense that if there's like a physical danger, like let's say you need to like remember, oh, that's where the lion is. Don't go there. That's very important. But you said, and I also found this place where there's some delicious berries. The delicious berries are nice to have. Not getting eaten by a lion, essential. So that's why I think we just tend to remember or respond to negative stuff more than positive, because negative stuff historically could be physically the end of us. Like it could be game over versus sort of nice to have stuff. So I think there's kind of like an inherent evolutionary bias towards negative news. But the thing is that negative news now is that we get news from all around the world that can't possibly affect us, or are very unlikely to affect us. And it's bad for wherever it was in the world that had the natural disaster and so forth. But it's not. It actually doesn't affect us directly. But we get the news from far away that doesn't affect us directly, but still makes us sad.
Yeah, and that does have an effect on you, because then you can't focus on what you need to focus on.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So so my next question. So if the worst case were to happen, if humanity goes extinct, do you think the light of consciousness itself would die, or do you think it would evolve into something else?
Given enough time, humanity will go extinct. Because the counterpoint will be humanity will live forever, and I think that's just unlikely. But we can live for a very long time, or humanity can live for a very long time, and we should try to make that time as long as possible. As to whether there will be some other form of consciousness that evolves after humanity, I hope so, but we don't know for sure. And I think we should. It would be wise to not to just assume that if we're gone, that they'll in the future be some other form of consciousness. Maybe not. Like I said, Earth's 1.5 billion years old. The sun is slowly expanding. As the sun expands, those over millions of years, the temperature on Earth will rise, and eventually the sun will engulf Earth. and everything will be incinerated. Now that is, there's different schools of thought here, but the sun may things may get hot enough on Earth within maybe 500 million years, where Earth may be uninhabitable. But that's sort of a combination of the various cycles of Earth, because on a very geological time scale, Earth actually has gone through snowball phases and sort of very hot phases. And if you have a very hot phase of Earth combined with the sun expanding, that could really be a mass extinction event. And one of the things, like for an Earth timing standpoint, 500 million years would only be 10% longer than Earth has existed thus far. And so if consciousness or civilization had taken 10% longer to evolve, it wouldn't have evolved at all.
Yeah.
So on a large time scale, we're kind of making it just, we're actually pretty close. We kind of got here just in time, not, So.
Okay, yeah. I wonder how it actually evolved. Like it just poof, come out of nowhere. I don't know.
What the
consciousness, like itself, like it just kind of popped up.
Yeah. Things started out as hydrogen and then got more complex, and basically if you leave hydrogen out in the sun long enough, it starts talking. That's us.
It became God. Yeah. So what qualities are you looking for in a person who would want to make the first human man trip to Mars?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important to emphasize that what really matters is getting a lot of people to Mars and enough equipment to make a city self-sustaining. Certainly whoever's there first, I suppose, will be famous, but that's not what's important from a civilizational standpoint. What we actually need is to make a self-sustaining city on Mars. That's the critical threshold, and we need to do that while civilization still has the ability to do so, and that ability to do so could end for a number. Could end because of World War III. It could end because civilization just gradually peters out. The arc of civilizations, like of the various sort of civilizations that have been on Earth, they've not had a sort of continuous upward trajectory. They rose, they peaked, and they fell.
It's like a cycle of that, yeah.
The ancient Sumerians are no longer. The ancient Egyptians no longer. The
Romans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's just many civilizations that have risen and fallen. The Mayans, and they had really quite an incredible network of cities. It was very amazing, actually. So now they're just mostly just under jungle and Earth. So I think we just don't want to take it for granted. Like I think people sort of have lived at a period of time where civilization, from a technology standpoint, has been increasing, and so they just naturally assume that's just how it is. It'll just always increase. Essentially, what I'm saying is I'm trying to say that we should approach making life multiplanetary with a sense of urgency, and to do so while we can. Because this is the first time that the window of opportunity has been open for life to become multiplanetary, and that window may be open for a long time or a short time, but I think it would be wise for us to assume it'll be open for a short time and take action now. Now, from a resource standpoint, sometimes people think, "Oh, how is this going to take all the resources of Earth?" No, what I'm suggesting is that we spend less than 1% of our resources, or maybe on that order, on making life multiplanetary and preserving the future of life, not just for humans, but for all life on Earth. Because we are in bringing life to Mars, we would be life's steward. We would be the caretaker of life, and so the other creatures can't build spaceships and we can. So,
I know my cats. You would not believe what my cats can do. That's all I got to say about that.
but it's like I kind of think we've got a responsibility to protect the rest of the creatures on Earth too.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think we should just do that. And I think a reasonable thing would be, like I said, about 1% of our resources. We'll call it 99 for Earth problems, but I think 1% for making life multiplanetary and ensuring the long-term survival of consciousness and life as we know it is worth 1% of resources. I think, and that's the what I would propose to the people of Earth.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we still need to make sure things are good on Earth. Of course, we're not like, oh, let's abandon Earth and run.
Right.
So sometimes people are like, are you just gonna let Earth go to hell? I'm like, no, we need to make everything we can to make Earth good. Like Tesla's goal is to help ensure a good future for Earth, and then SpaceX's goal is to make life multiplanetary and ensure the long-term survival of consciousness.
Those are awesome goals.
Yeah. So, one's
happiness.
Yeah.
I think another thing is just increasing the happiness.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, if totally. So I mean, I've mostly talked about the defensive reasons for, like the protective reasons for making life multiplanetary. But I think it's also, I think things that, like, what actually gets me the most excited and fired up, it's actually the sense of adventure and possibility, and it'd just be the greatest adventure ever, and it would be exciting and inspiring to see it happen.
Well, what you've done, what you and SpaceX have done in Ukraine with the Starlink, it inspires a lot of deep respect. You've also helped St. Charles Parish in my state, after Hurricane Ida, as well as the villages of Tonga. So, what role do you see Starlink playing in regards of disaster relief? Because we're going to have a lot of disasters. They're predicting more hurricanes for my area, actually, this year.
Sure. Well, just in general, Starlink, because it is not dependent on any ground-based infrastructure, can provide internet connectivity to areas that have had floods or fires or earthquakes, and that have destroyed the ground-based infrastructure. So that's obviously extremely helpful for rescuing people, and knowing where, like if just people being able to, say I need help, I need rescue. Like how do you find them? How do you communicate with them? And Starlink can and has provided that in a number of situations.
Yeah.
So
when we had Ida, my power was out for a week. There was actually, when the hurricane hit, the communications of Southeast Louisiana was completely wiped out, and we were using, I forgot the name of the app, but the Cajun Navy uses this app to rescue people, and they because they would go from place to place to place.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made me think of that. Starlink, I think, would definitely help, like, organizations like Cajun Navy, as well as others, just to kind of be able to communicate better, especially with government, and not just in my area, but other areas too. So, but yeah, it's really awesome with that. It would be cool to see something like that on a more install on your phone too, as well as internet. To keep people connected.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like certainly, one's phone is capable of behaving at least as a short-range walkie-talkie, even if it's not connected to the internet in any way. You can just basically create a Wi-Fi bridge. Maybe is that what you're talking about? Or?
Yeah, or just somewhere to help people stay connected. Like, if you're having a disaster and you call somebody, usually you get like well, during Hurricane Rita, I wasn't really badly affected by Rita, but I had people telling me, "Oh, we get this error message. You're in a disaster zone, or you're in some kind of zone where this person's impacted by disaster, so they can't, like, the call's not going through." I had people telling me that. That was back in 2005, though.
Oh,
but,
it's a long time ago.
Yeah, but just, I don't know, something, just to keep people connected during the disasters. So, like, you don't have to worry about a friend is missing. And they can call and say, "Hey, I'm okay. Power's out. We're, conserving battery." But speaking of disasters, the Musk Foundation has done a lot of good work and about a month or so ago, I made this really long list.
Yeah.
You saw it. It was like I got tired. I was adding and adding and adding to that list, and it kept on growing. Just how much good work you guys are doing, and so what you did also for Lake Charles in Southwest Louisiana, especially after Laura impacted that area, was really phenomenal, and it saved lives.
Cool. That's great.
But how do you see the Musk Foundation itself helping charities, especially toward disaster relief, within the next few years as the effects of climate change continue to kind of get worse?
Well, I mean, we try hard with the foundation to give away money in ways that are actually useful, where there's like, maximum number of cents on the dollar of actually helping the people in need. It's way harder to give away money than you think if you care about it actually doing good as opposed to sounding like it does good.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to make it sound like money's doing good, but it's hard to make it actually do good. I can't tell you, it's insanely hard. So we're actually just building up more personnel within the foundation to be more direct and go through fewer sort of intermediaries and kind of middle entities, so we can be more, have more the shortest path to helping people in need. But I have to say it's way harder than you'd think to give away money effectively, but that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and would you consider grants that help organizations that also focus on disaster relief?
Yeah, no, we do provide grants to organizations that work on disaster relief.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last year you donated $100 million for XPrize for the competition to fight climate change, and so far about $20 million of that has been distributed to winners. On Earth Day, they announced that the foundation awarded $15 million and to winners in 4 categories. That's air, land, ocean, and rocks. Which of these 4 categories do you feel needs the most work, the most impact, help?
Well, I mean, the long-term problem is saying, okay, we need to get the parts per million level of CO2 in the atmosphere, primarily in the atmosphere, down to a lower level. We're going to have to pull it out of the air and store it somewhere. And I think probably storing it in some solid form is going to make sense. In a form that after you store it, it doesn't gradually sort of evaporate and return to the atmosphere or somehow, but it needs to be. It's you've got to extract the CO2 and store it. That's pretty tough, So, and it's going to take a fair bit of energy to do that. And so that energy obviously has to be provided by a renewable or sustainable means like solar and wind, or geothermal. I'm actually pro nuclear as well. Like, I think nuclear has a bad rap, and it's people really shouldn't be shutting down nuclear power stations, in my view, unless they're in like a location that's prone to natural disasters. In which case, you don't
want a hurricane to hit.
You don't like you can't be always waiting for the real once in a century situation, and
you
then
don't want that to happen.
Yeah, like the Fukushima situation was like, well,
that was
there's a lot of tsunamis and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's probably not great to have nuclear where there's natural disasters. But for example, in like France and Germany, many parts of the U.S., there's really no meaningful risk of a natural disaster that could affect a nuclear power plant. So it's not, we shouldn't shut them down in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think it's primarily solar and wind. As you can see, and then it's like figuring out what is the what takes the least amount of resources to convert to take the CO2 from the atmosphere and bind it in a form that can be stored. So that's what the competition is about.
And when you said bringing taking the carbon out there and storing it, you just made me think. And I didn't add this on the questions, but you just reminded me. There's a really cool company called Project Vestas. I think it's the name of it. They take peridot. They're trying to use peridot to do that. And then there's other different diamond companies that are making lab-grown diamonds with the air, with the carbon in the air. Like they're taking the carbon out the air and making gemstones with it. That's cool.
That is cool. I don't think that's a very. I'm not sure that scales.
Yeah, I don't know if it scales, but it is cool to think about. Like, you know, this diamond. Yeah, that's carbon. That's not going in the air. It's going in your ring.
Yes, I think that takes a lot of energy, to be frank. But so I'm not. But yeah, still cool.
Yeah. So would you consider having another like when this competition closes and the full 100 million is given out? Would you consider doing another one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like I said, I'm in favor of anything that anywhere where money can be spent that does real good. And we're constantly looking for things that we think will be highly effective ways to spend money for general social good.
And what accomplishments that has the Musk Foundation achieved that you're the most proudest? Like, what makes you feel warm inside that that makes you feel like you're doing good?
I mean, I really don't think we've done enough to at least at this stage, I don't think we've done enough to be singing our own praises here.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an education XPrize that my foundation funded, and it was basically to figure out the best way to improve literacy. So it was for I think that was cool, and I think that did some good. To the degree that one can improve literacy, then you're essentially improving everything about a given society, because they can now learn skills, learn things. If you can't read, basically it's hard to make it's hard to sort of lift someone out of poverty if they can't read. So you got to read.
I actually have neighbors that can't read, and they're like older than me, and they just can't read or write. And I'm like, that's how my mom taught me when I was 3 how to read. I'm very grateful for that. But I don't know, like the idea of being unable to read, that terrifies me. And we do need more literacy.
Yeah, so we had like also with the XPrize Foundation, literacy XPrize, and to figure out like what's the best software that you could have on like a low cost sort of kind of Android tablet type of thing, that is most effective at teaching people to read. So that I guess that's probably the best thing we've done so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're doing a lot of good work with the Musk Foundation. Yeah, you've helped a lot of people, especially in my community. So
I think Starlink will have a really positive effect on, improving sort of people's income and stuff, and improving their standard of living, because for a lot of people, they either a large portion of the world does not have internet connectivity, or if they do, it's very bad and extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Where Starlink can provide connectivity for like sort of a whole village of like 200 people type of thing, and then it's like in that case it would be like 50 cents a month per person. I think that's pretty affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really affordable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So the declining birth rate, you often talk about this problem. It is a real problem. It really is. But there's another problem I think is playing a major role, and that's poverty. So what actions do you think need to be taken towards solving poverty that would kind of help it relieve some of that issues with the declining birth rate?
Well, the declining birth rate it's somewhat counterintuitive, but generally the wealthier someone is, the fewer kids they have. I'm an exception, but it's quite rare. So it's basically the higher the education level and the wealthier people are, the fewer kids they have. So it's not a money thing.
Yeah.
It's in fact, it seems the opposite. Like more money that someone has, the fewer kids they have. So, and somebody who's sort of sort of living at like a 2022 standard of what's considered, at the sort of poverty level would be really. I mean, they have access to things that the richest person didn't have like 100 years ago. So.
I just know that, like when I've been homeless before working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the idea of having a kid would terrify me, especially if you're not stable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, those problems that contribute to that, and you can't just like throw money at it and solve it. And I always tell people that, you can't just like, okay, here's $100 million, go in homelessness. You can't just do that because there's a lot of trauma involved.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of mental healing involved. There's a lot of, I think trauma is the number one cause of homelessness, just from my experience of it, because I've seen what it does firsthand, and I've experienced it, what it does. So, I mean, it's just poverty. I don't know. I don't want to call it insolvable, but that's why I was asking, because like, what ideas do you have that could help, point some kind of solution, put some kind of solution out there?
Well, like I said, I mean, literacy and access to the internet, I think, are fundamentally helpful. But they've got to think beyond the United States. It's like there's a lot of, like I said, there's billions of people who have no internet connectivity at all, nothing, or it's like a very low bandwidth and insanely expensive. That's like for many parts of the world, this is the case. But like I said, billions of people. So so I think those things are helpful. I mean, generally, education obviously is good. And I mean, these days, if you can learn almost anything online. So, like MIT, for example, has all of their lectures online, and a number of other universities do. So you could kind of, if you want to, you could learn almost anything, at a very low cost. I mean, just using a simple sort of, like a phone or an old tablet, for $100 basically, and like you can you've got access to all the world's information. So, I think that's, and I think this fact is really underappreciated, and people, it's something we should be, I think, pretty excited and optimistic about, or feel good about, which is that information before the internet was very limited. If you wanted to learn a skill or trade, or learn something, you would have to go to a school, and you'd have to get the specific books, or you'd have to go to a library, and that library wouldn't necessarily have all the books that you'd want. Or maybe there isn't a library. There might not be a library near where you live. But with the internet, you've got instant access to basically all the world's information, and so information quality is really incredible compared to where it used to be. Especially if you go back, say, a few hundred years, let's say go back 400 years, there weren't public libraries. Well, there were very few public libraries, and books were things that only a few percent of the population actually even had a book, and then the book collection would be very small. So, and then before the Gutenberg printing press, books were like insanely rare.
Yeah.
So if you look at, say, how has access to information, quality of access to information improved over time, it's insane how much better it was than the past. Yeah. So,
I can imagine not having books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Google, you've got like this sort of magic oracle that can like answer almost any question.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned a lot on Google, especially whenever I go to gem and mineral shows from time to time. I'm always finding something. I'm like, what is that? Having to Google that, and Google teaches really well. Do you have any other thoughts or ideas on how to reverse population decline?
Well, the population decline problem, I think, is possibly the biggest risk to civilization. It's certainly one of the biggest risks. first of all, I think people really need to. A lot of people think that there's too many humans on the planet and the planet can't sustain this number of humans. This is absolutely not true. We could double the population without any meaningful damage to the environment. So, Earth, you can fit all the humans on Earth in the city of New York. That's the cross-sectional area of humans. They literally fit in the city of New York on one floor. You don't even need high rises. Mm-hmm. And if you're on a plane flight and you look down and you say, what percentage of the time if I were to drop a ball where that ball would hit a person? Basically zero. Even in a city like LA, which you think, oh, that's a crowded city, but so looking at it from above, what's the cross-sectional area of humans relative to the rest of the ground? Mm-hmm. And it's much less than 1%, even in LA. So we sort of, if you're in a big city environment and you see a lot of people, you sort of, you sort of extrapolate that to everywhere. But it's actually very rare to see a concentration of humans. So humans, Earth is very sparsely populated with humans. There's not enough humans, far from being too many. And I think people are still sort of operating on the assumption that the population is just growing like crazy, when in fact the opposite is occurring. And these numbers are easy to look up. I mean, they're just on the internet. So we had the lowest birth rate in recorded history last year.
Wow. Yeah, I saw the statistics on your Twitter account. Yeah.
I don't even see all your tweets half the time. And I follow you. That's the crazy part. I'll look through your tweets and
even if you have the latest tweets, because you got to switch between algorithm and later. Yeah,
I do switch. I do.
I'm totally on Twitter.
Yeah,
because
I'm everything bad. Search ghost ban, search bus.
Yeah, the shadow banning. Yeah, shadow banning is like crazy. It's really bad.
What the heck's going on? It's like,
I don't know. I tweet really nice things, but
exactly. You're not like a hate monger.
She got shadow banned.
The furthest thing you're obviously a super nice person. So what the heck are they doing?
She replied to me with a heart and got shadow banned over a heart. And it wasn't a heart. No, it was Kristen. It was somebody. One of my friends. I think it was you or Kristen. They replied to me with something really nice, a heart, and they got shadow banned. They had to leave. Yes. Oh, it was you.
It's lots of love.
Yeah.
It really sounds like someone on Twitter is doing something shady. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whoever's doing that on Twitter, shame on you.
Right? Yeah, y'all need to stop.
That's not cool.
Yeah, don't shadow ban Gail.
Yeah, that's like,
she's awesome.
Totally messed up.
All right, so let's talk Tesla. There's been quite a lot of bills that have been kind of like anti-EV or anti-Tesla put through state governments. Some of them went through. I don't know if I haven't really followed up with that. But it seems like the goal is that they want to prevent Tesla from doing business. They want to shut down their service centers and just stop Tesla from serving its customers. And most of these bills have been introduced either by dealer associations or former dealerships who are like Congress. So what are your thoughts on how dealerships are trying to preserve their way of life instead of evolving with the market and the times? Like, what's your 2.5?
Yeah, it's to be expected that incumbents will oppose new entrants to a market, and they're if they can't win a fair fight, they'll try an unfair fight. So I think we'll continue to see opposition to Tesla, but I think at the end of the day, if we have the people on our side and we've got a customer supporting us, I think with customer support or with Tesla owner support, I think we'll win most of the battles. We're not going to win them all, probably, but we'll win most of them.
You wanted to say something? You got a question?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Oh,
I do. I think once people experience the product, whether it's power storage or of course the vehicle.
Teslas are cool. The Plaid event, like
the reaction.
When I went to the Plaid event last year, and then when I flew home, taking off in a flight is nothing compared to the launch in the Plaid. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really designed to be what's the most amount of fun you can have in a car.
Yeah. It's
amazing.
well, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and the team did a good
Yeah,
job.
exactly. Everyone was on team.
Yeah. So Tesla Insurance is making a difference for the customers who switched, and you're in several states now. I think it's 8 or 9. And Louisiana has the highest average cost of car insurance in the nation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're always either in the highest of the worst or the lowest in the best. It's I don't know.
Okay.
It's Louisiana for you. But
All right.
But when will Tesla Insurance expand to all 50 states in Canada, and when will Louisiana get it?
Well, so the insurance is regulated primarily at the state level, so it's a state by state thing, and you have to do jump through a lot of hoops in every state, and those hoops take a long time to jump. Like you have to do. There's so many things you have to do. Like there's a lot of barriers to entry, basically, and I like some of these barriers to entry are like legit. You know, you can't have like some shady insurance company, but then I think some of these regulations are there to protect the existing insurers and stop new entrants. But generally it's a very slow process of getting sort of the various licenses in all the states, and every state is different. So it's paperwork insanity. So we're expanding as quickly as we can, and I'm not sure about Louisiana, but we are. Eventually, we intend to be in all states and Canada and hopefully the world. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we have the craziest drivers in Louisiana. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Tesla insurance is like it's kind of real time feedback. So you can the safer you drive, the lower your insurance rate, that's I think quite a revolution in insurance, and it also will allow people who like it's very hard to get insurance if you're like under age 25, or maybe you got like one bad thing on your driver's record or something, and then sometimes you can't get insurance or it's insanely expensive. But really, the insurance should be proportionate to how good you are as a driver, how safe you are as a driver, and so that's the sort of revolutionary element of Tesla insurance.
Yeah, it would suck for me because I don't drive. I don't know how to drive. I never learned, and like being a first time driver, they go crazy high, and
yeah, exactly.
Louisiana being the highest, it'll be kind of hard.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually quite discriminatory that if you have because you got they'll sort of just lump you in with everyone and statistically like you, like all new drivers. But like some new drivers are going to be much safer than others, and it's really insurance should just be proportionate to how safe you drive, and that's our goal.
Yeah. So you've said before that Tesla might go into the mining industry. Is this something you're still considering? Is it on the table, or just in the back of your mind?
Well, we don't want to go into the mining industry or the sort of refining industry for because the limitation I think is actually more, for example, with lithium, it's more lithium refinement than it is the actual mining. So you've got to take the ore that contains lithium and you've got to refine it and get it to battery grade lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate, and that has to be extremely pure. Otherwise, you can have a breakdown in the cell. Like you can't have like impurities in the cell because it will cause the cell to fail. So the challenge with a lot of the ingredients into lithium-ion batteries is the processing. It's not the fundamental rarity of lithium. Lithium is very common. It's one of the most common elements on Earth. But you've got to turn it into battery grade lithium, and that's so that all of that processing, that's where the choke point is. I hope we do not need to get into the mining business. I mean, it's important to appreciate like there's a limited number of smart, hardworking people that we can say work on this problem or work on that problem. And so if we have people work on this problem, they can't work on that problem. Right. And there's not like some magical source of super talented people.
So they gotta be trained, or at least be passionate about it too. gotta be something they love.
Yeah. We're not sitting around with idle resources saying, I wonder what more we can take on. We have to sort of husband our resources and focus on things that really make a difference. The overarching goal of Tesla is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy, and the fundamental good of Tesla will be measured, or should be measured, by how many years did we accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. And so we want to work on the things that accelerate sustainable energy the fastest, whatever the limiting factors are.
Tesla recently had a virtual power plant. Could you tell us a little bit more about how Tesla is working with ERCOT and the difference that it is making there?
Yeah, I mean, we've got. There are three pillars to a sustainable energy future. One is electric transport. The other is sustainable power generation, primarily through solar and wind. And then the third is stationary battery energy storage, because the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow all the time. So you got to, store the energy while the sun is shining or the wind is blowing in the stationary batteries, and then those batteries provide power to the grid. And we can have a fully sustainable energy Earth just with those three things. And Tesla is working on all those three things. The stationary battery part is a big deal, and we are ramping that up. It's going to be, I think, a very big part of our business long term. It's a very important part of the total energy solution for Earth. Our estimate is that you need about 300 terawatt hours of energy storage, or said another 3,000 gigawatt hours. Sorry, 300,000 gigawatt hours. So other people may come up with different numbers, but in order to fully transition Earth, including all electricity, transport, and heating, we think it's probably around that number. So that's a lot of batteries that need to get made.
Yeah.
And if you assume a battery life before it gets recycled of 20 years, roughly, then you need 15 terawatt hours a year of annual production, a steady state. So 15,000 gigawatt hours a year. But I think like a current production is much less than that. I think we might be approaching 1,000 gigawatt hours or thereabouts at this point. This is like my sort of master plan part 3 is about scaling. Like, how do we scale to get to how do we get to that fully sustainable economy, fully sustainable energy economy, and what tonnage do we need of what materials, and what is maybe the best way to get all of those materials and turn them into batteries. But the fundamental governor of the rate at which we can transition to sustainability is the rate at which we can grow the output of lithium-ion batteries.
Okay. Yeah. I've been following along with the virtual power plants in ERCOT, and Gail has really been covering it on her blogs too. I think that's awesome. And if those go pretty well, and ERCOT says, "Hey, we're going to allow VPPs now," I'd like to see them across the Deep South, because I think the Deep South is kind of the most neglected part, and we're the hottest part of the country. And the most hardest hit, with all the disasters and stuff, we could it would be cool to see Tesla and utilities partner up across in these areas as well to do demonstrations and workshops. Yeah, right, Gail?
Yeah. Absolutely. This is going to be a game changer for Texas. I think Texas can lead in this, really. Yeah. I do. I think they're very receptive to it.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see, because Texas grid is completely separate from the rest of the nation. And that's like its weakest part. We were talking about this last night, but that's like the weakest part of Texas is the grid. And now here comes Tesla trying to strengthen that weakest part,
Yeah, the batteries are helpful even without sustainable energy because they can sort of load balance the grid. So if you have power spikes, the batteries can absorb the power spike. If it sort of dips, or I should say, if there's a drop in power or an increase in power, like power fluctuations, the batteries can smooth it out. And so the Tesla sort of mega pack and power walls and stuff can be really helpful for stabilizing the grid, even in the absence of sustainable energy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Can you talk at all a little more about like the distributed energy resources, or like how this factory could be protected in the event of a disaster or an emergency?
I think there's going to be, in terms of batteries, a combination of large batteries at the sort of utility scale batteries that work with very big installations. Like we just did a big thing with PG&E at Moss Landing in California, which is going to be very important for maintaining power in California. And there's a number of other installations happening. And then at the local level, you've got the power walls that collectively can stabilize the grid within a neighborhood. So the combination of centralized batteries with Megapack and distributed batteries at homes and businesses with the Powerwall working together can have very positive effect in making sure the power stays on.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's actually pretty cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it gives people hope. I think it does really bring happiness when we talk about how much we depend on energy for just about everything.
Absolutely. Energy is the foundation of the economy. Yeah. Civilization would crumble immediately if we didn't have it.
Yeah.
There'd be mass starvation.
It'd be terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
I wanted to quickly talk about the Tesla Justice. First of all, it's about time. Like, y'all should have had that of all the drama on, especially with all the like short selling and just all the stuff that they put people through.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla's just under a relentless attack from so many.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so I think like we just have to have like a strong litigation group that fights back, essentially. So.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
how's the planning on that? Is there anything you could share about that?
Yeah, a lot of really talented lawyers have sort of sent in their resume, or and we're actually going through that, and we're going to be hiring a bunch of people who responded to my tweet.
That's good. Yeah. Congrats.
But we definitely need to start. We're under this constant attack. It's insane.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. You are.
Yeah.
The conspiracies I see on Twitter from people who like really hate you and hate Tesla are just nuts. Like, it's like you can come up with some good satire.
I mean, they really have to twist themselves into a pretzel here. I mean, like, it's like, what diabolical thing do they think? I'm like in the factory trying to make.
You're building cars.
Yeah, like you can just literally see it.
Yeah.
It's not like
Like, how bad
but I mean, the short sellers would like try to at one point like say that Giga Shanghai is fake and it's not.
I remember that.
And
they said it was a field of mud.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was at one time.
It was one time, but then we made it a factory on it.
Yeah, don't change. Yeah.
They were trying to say that was fake, and like it's not fake if it's like if people have drone videos and like stuff. They and tons of cars are coming out of it. So
yeah. And the main reason why I think people did the drone was just to prove that it was there, to fight the FUD and the negativity.
Yeah.
That's what I think the drone videos were really important.
Yeah. And then they said I mean, it's just crazy. They said that like Giga Berlin wouldn't get built and like you wouldn't get approvals. It's like, we're like making 1,000 cars a week.
That's congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But I mean, it's just like a lot of great, hardworking people at Tesla, and so because it's actually really hard to make cars. So the whole supply chain and production process is extremely difficult. As you probably heard me say before, it's like relatively speaking, making a prototype is easy. We can make a prototype of practically anything in 6 months with maybe 100 people, but to get that to volume production and try to have the price be as affordable as possible, and have sort of positive gross margins, so you're not operating at a loss. That takes 10,000 people at least 2 years, and that's like 2 to 3 times faster than the rest of industry. So it's vastly more difficult to manufacture than to create prototypes. It's not even remotely comparable. In general, I think manufacturing is underrated. And manufacturing used to be really cool in the US, and then became, for some reason, I think kind of uncool for quite a long time. And we're just a lot of talented people went in other directions. But I sure hope a lot more talented people get into manufacturing, because that's where you're making the products that people use and enjoy. I could just generally think this is both a compliment and a criticism, but there are too many smart Americans in finance and law.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying they're smart, but I'm also saying that could they consider doing manufacturing instead of finance or law?
Yeah,
because I think we have probably too many lawyers in the United States, and too many people in finance, and their talents would just be much better applied to manufacturing. So making stuff people need and love.
What is the next step in EV technology that would make it even friendlier to the environment and better for the economy? What do you think that is?
I think it's really just about scaling up.
Mm-hmm.
So can we make enough? Right now, we cannot make enough cars to satisfy demand. So we got to grow production capacity, and looking ahead, we need to make sure that, like I said, the raw materials from a mining and refining standpoint are there to support the future growth. And the limiting factor is the rate at which we can increase battery production.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really matters. I wouldn't say that there's I don't think there's any technology breakthrough needed. It's about scale. And it's a tremendous amount of work.
So let's talk about AI and Optimus. So I know very little about AI, and what I've learned from you and Tesla, actually. People that told me 4 years ago, hey, you're going to be interviewing Elon Musk about AI, I would have looked at you like you lost your mind.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, that's how little I know. But I'm learning, and I am curious, how close do you think we are to general intelligence? Or are we already there?
Well, I don't think we're quite there for artificial general intelligence, in the sense if that's defined as intelligence that exceeds humans in every way.
Okay.
So we're not quite there yet, but we're headed in that. I mean, if progress continues, that's what will happen. We'll have digital intelligence that exceeds human intelligence in every way. And I hope that the AI is nice to us.
I hope so too.
What are the chances?
I hope nice. So. I mean, I've lost a lot of sleep thinking about AI as an existential risk. Eventually, I'm like, I don't know what. I think we just gotta hope that it's good and try to steer it in a good direction. And I think there probably should be a regulatory agency that oversees advanced AI because it's a public safety risk, and generally, when you've got a public safety risk, you want to have regulatory oversight. Just makes it sure no companies are cutting corners or doing unsafe things, type of thing. So,
mm-hmm.
But it's advancing quickly. For Tesla, we're just kind of looking for the kind of AI that can drive way safer than a human, and I think we're almost there. But that's a sort of simple. That's like a utility function. It's a hard problem, but I think it's like the car's not going to sort of suddenly decide it wants to take over the world. It's really just going to want to take you to your destination.
Babylon, what is it? Babylon? It was Babylon B, right? The Tesla cars take you to work against your will or something like that.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of it actually, like if you pass out, then it taking you to the hospital and just just to the ER, and I'm a registered nurse.
Honk until it gets.
Yeah, literally. That's the car will if you have like a heart attack or stroke or something's wrong, a seizure, the car can figure that out and take you to.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Save lives.
Yeah, totally.
It already does, but save more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's already like a lot of cases where people have like fainted or just otherwise just lost lost consciousness.
The seizure one. Seizures.
Yeah, seizures, absolutely. And because the car was on autopilot, they're alive, and if they didn't have autopilot, they might be dead, or they might have run someone over.
Yeah. And I remember, and I actually wrote an article about this. You were actually inspired by by an accident that happened. I think it was in 2014 to create this.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the things that really convinced me that we need to go as fast as possible with autonomy was that we had a Tesla owner in the Bay Area. He fell asleep at the wheel and ran over a cyclist and killed the cyclist. And I was like, well, if that car had been on autopilot, that cyclist would still be alive. So we got to hustle and make autopilot work. And then more recently, a terrible tragedy. J.B. Straubel's wife was run over.
I remember
killed by again, sort of a truck driver fell asleep on the opposite side of the road, and the truck veered across the road, and she was cycling on the far side of the road, and she got killed by the truck.
Yeah, my heart went out to him. Yeah, I remember reading that. It was just horrible to read.
Yeah, so this is directly affecting people we know. It's not like people we don't know. Anyway. So I think if that truck had been on autopilot, JP's wife would still be alive. So we gotta. It's an important life-saving technology. There's over 1 million people that die every year in car accidents, and I think on about 10 million that are severely injured, like where you like lose a limb or have severe pain for the rest of your life type of thing. So there's a lot of good that can be done with autonomy, because I think we'd probably improve those things by a factor of 10, like make it 10 times better at least.
I will tell you, FSD beta kind of saved my life when I came back. All right, so when I flew back from Austin from the Cyber Rodeo, my neighbor was supposed to pick me up. They had an emergency, and I said, okay, I'm going to just call it Uber. And my Uber driver was a Tesla owner with FSD beta, and he actually followed me on Twitter, and we were just kind of like, it was like a Spider-Man meme almost, but without us being each other. And so FSD beta took me home from the airport in Baton Rouge, and along the way, 2 cyclists literally like came out of nowhere. It was like they popped up out of the street or something, and it handled it beautifully, flawlessly. And I was like, man, I wish we could have gotten this on video.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even expecting to be in FSD beta. And I just came off a flight, and I just wanted to get home. So, but it was cool, and it happened like one right after the other, and then. It saw a pedestrian on the other side of the street that looked like they were trying to cross, so it slowed down to a stop. But it was really cool kind of experiencing that and seeing the car just like, oh, I see you, I'm going to stop for you, It was really cool, And we didn't see the cyclist. Had it been him driving, who knows what would have happened.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
been tragic.
Yeah. Not for, I'm pretty sure we would have been fine, but those cyclists, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla Autopilot and FSD have saved a lot of lives and prevented a lot of injuries already.
Yeah, it has. It really has. There's so many stories, and that's why I don't get all these news stories talking about, oh, this car just killed somebody on AI or whatever, on autopilot. And I'm like, no, they don't kill people. Like that whole thing is and it frustrates me because I'm like, if you do your research, you see more stories of Tesla saving lives and not taking them. In fact, I don't think there's any case that is actually actively took a life the way they make it out to be.
It's really not in the sense that the car steered itself into a tree up, out of nowhere type of thing. That's not happened to the best of my knowledge. Obviously basic autopilot is not meant to be a full self-driving, and you have to acknowledge every time you use it that you still need to pay attention to the road because it's not ready yet for it's not ready. It's not ready yet where you can't pay attention. We say every time you enable it, we pop up a message saying you must pay attention to the environment. But it's also important to say, like, autopilot or full self-driving, it will not mean that accidents go to zero. It's not possible if you have law of large numbers and billions of miles traveled that it's perfect. Perfect is not. It's not possible. What really matters is it substantially safer than a person driving on average, and that is the case. So but when we started out on the sort of autopilot self-driving path, I was warned by a lot of people that it's like, even if you save 90% of the lives, the 10% of the lives you didn't save will still sue you, and that's true.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the people whose lives were saved, they don't know the lives were saved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes they do,
but you're still doing it though. You're still doing it, and that's my, I think
it's still the right thing to do for sure. Yeah.
And that speaks a lot about your character, and of course Tesla's character as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always want to do the reality of goodness should be favored, obviously, above the perception of it.
I just want to share a special thank you to Elon Musk, Tesla, and his teams for not only allowing me to visit Giga Texas again, but to interview Elon. I think his work is important for humanity. Elon is somebody inspired by the problems that the majority of us don't even think about as we go about our daily lives. I learned a lot from interviewing him, and my hope is that you do as well. His dedication and his passion for his work is inspiring for all of us, and it reminds us that we all have a purpose in life, something that brings us the sense of fulfillment and of doing what you're here to do. Elon Musk has done a lot of good in this world, and I'm honored that he joined me here on Getting Stoned, a podcast about gems and minerals most of the time.
Hey, this is Getting Stoned.